Okay, hello again. This time before I begin the video, I'd like to tell you that I've started a Facebook group, Scotsman762, if you're interested in coming along to share your EDC, your knives, that sort of thing, etc. I said that in the channel announcements video. Some of you said that you don't use social media. Fair enough, that's fine. But for anyone that's interested, you're welcome to come along. Right then, the video. One of my subscribers, Kotha, I think that's how his name's pronounced, suggested doing a video on what I think he meant was my experiences with people reacting to the knife hobby. What I think he means by that is basically how do people react when you tell them you collect knives, you've got all these knives in your house, machetes, that sort of thing. Uh, how do people react when they find out you're carrying a knife? So Kotha, I'm guessing that's what you mean by that, and that's an interesting one for a video because yeah, I've had some reactions. I've been carrying some form of a pocket knife since I was at least 16. So that's more than 5 years anyway. So I think I've probably raised a few eyebrows in that time. Not that I was ever doing anything stupid, and I don't ever encourage you to flash around your knives. I mean, if you want to show someone your knife, by all means, I see no problem with that. In fact, I would jump at any opportunity to talk and show knives to people, but you just gotta consider where you do it. I mean, for example, don't show someone your pocket knife on a bus. That's probably not a smart thing to do. I'm probably going to contradict myself in this video, but anyway, here we are. Um, for the most part, people are fairly understanding and reasonable about it. But like I said, I have sort of raised some eyebrows. One of the examples that I could remember, this isn't necessarily knives but machetes. I remember a couple of years ago I was doing NC furniture design at college, and I was sitting in the workshop talking to a few people about this, the hobby of knives, and I just remember saying that I collect knives and I've got three machetes in the living room, and the entire workshop just went dead silent. Like everyone just went quiet and started looking at me. It's like it's just a tool. I mean, we're in a workshop full of sharp and potentially dangerous tools. I mean, there's a table saw across the room. There's a bandsaw over there. There's countless people using chisels, mallets, and saws, and very sharp knives. But somehow having a machete is weird. I mean, I don't quite understand the thinking behind that really. Um, Here's another example of that. I remember talking during another college course to some students about this knife. This is my Victorinox Swiss Champ. I used to carry this religiously for at least 2 years because it was a gift from my mum and dad for my 17th birthday. So obviously this is quite an important Swiss Army knife to me. In fact, it was the first one I ever got. So this is really what sparked off the hobby. I remember talking to some people about it, and for whatever reason, to begin with, everyone was sort of like, yeah, whatever. And then someone said it to someone else, and then before I knew it, literally everyone in the workshop was like, oh, he's got a knife, he's going to stab someone. And I'm like, well, no. I've had it the entire time I've been on this college course in my pocket. You didn't know about it, it wasn't an issue. Why is it all of a sudden a problem now? So, with the fact that I had a knife in my pocket during college, which by the way, I'm well within my right to do, I'm not breaking any laws. That's a non-locking sub 3 inch blade, and as far as I'm aware, there's no reason I can't take it to college. In fact, you're not even getting to pull this. The college has a no knife policy. I'll get to that in a minute. You're not going to pull that nonsense on me either, because some college courses you literally need a knife. I mean, what if you're doing catering? You're supposed to bring your own chef's knives. So how could this be a problem that a chef knife isn't, if you get what I'm saying, before anyone likes to pull that one on me? So I got a bit worried about that, and I thought, well, crap, I'm going to get in trouble. Someone's going to get really scared. They're going to phone the police on me, etc. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to save my own ass here. I'm going to go and speak to the lecturer. So I asked him, can I speak to you outside the room? And I explained the situation. I was like, look, I've got this pocket knife. It's legal for me to carry. These people are saying these things, and I just want you to know it's not true. And I showed him, And he said exactly that. Well, the college has got a no knife policy, and I said, well, I've not heard of that, and I've not seen it. And even if they do, it doesn't really matter because this is legal to carry anyway, and we're using knives, we're using potentially dangerous tools. And he said, well, okay, I'll go and speak to the manager about it, which he did, and I'm pretty sure he said to him the next day, yeah, it's fine. Manager wasn't bothered. That's not the only time that I've spoken to college lecturers about it. I don't know how many numerous college lecturers that I've shown that I've got a knife and they're just like, yeah, okay, whatever, they just don't care. Which, in this day and age, really, I mean, I will say you should be careful about that. But I mean, this was just a couple of years ago, 3 years, 4 years ago at the most, where these things were happening. I mean, I did NC Furniture just two years ago. So I've got all this political correctness around knives, even back then. I mean, I'm not an old guy. I'm just in my early 20s. But for the most part, people react fairly reasonably about it. I must have shown at least seven different lecturers, and they're usually all fine. That said, I do tend to talk about knives a bit too much, and people often lose their patience with me and tell me to be quiet about knives. Actually, on that note, I want to ask everyone that's watching this a question. Do you find that to be the case with you? I'm curious. You probably don't know this, but I've got autism, and I sometimes wonder, is this just a knife person thing, a knife collector thing, or is this an autism thing? So if you find that people get pissed off with you talking about knives too much, I'm curious to hear that too, autism or not. But like I said, for the most part, people's reactions are reasonable. Now, another example of what I've heard several times happening, and I'll use this as an example. In fact, this is probably the last example. Just last year, I was doing a chainsaw training course, basically to get a qualification to fell small trees with a chainsaw with a 15-inch bar. We're in the vehicle at lunchtime, having lunch, and for whatever reason, maybe me ended up talking about knives to the other guys there. And I said, yeah, I always carry a pocket knife of some description, and I pulled out my Leatherman Juice CS4, which most of you will know has a small sub 3-inch blade. I mean, the cutting edge on that is about 2.5 inches, and the thing is non-locking. A very non-threatening knife. In fact, I wouldn't even call it a knife, it's a multi-tool, to be honest. And one of the other guys doing the chainsaw course says, can't you get done for that? And I was like, nope. And he was really confused. He sort of looked at me and thought, how could you not get done for that? I was like, well, it's got a cutting edge of less than 3 inches and it's not locking, so I can carry it. The law says that I can carry that, which it does. Now, stop there and think about that for a second. 2.5-inch knife, locking or not, who cares at this point? Or a chainsaw. I'm out here in a public woodland with a chainsaw, cutting down trees. Anyone with two brain cells to rub together will realise that a chainsaw is far more dangerous than a pocket knife. So even if, for the most part, this wasn't legal to carry, what would be the issue? I mean, I've got a chainsaw. Why is the chainsaw fine, but the knife isn't? That's just something that I find quite baffling. And an argument, this is kind of unrelated to that, but an argument that I am more often than not presented with is, well, a knife is designed to kill. X, Y, or Z tool is not. You know, a chisel is not designed to kill, or a hammer is not designed to kill, or, you know, a car is not designed to kill. It's basically the same argument that it is with guns. Well, newsflash, this isn't designed to kill either. I mean, none of these are. In fact, the vast majority of my knives are not designed to kill. In fact, I've only got a few that arguably are. I mean, a K-Bar USMC, okay, that's a military knife, but that just sits in the cabinet anyway. It's just a display thing for me. So it's kind of a non-argument there. Yeah, this one here, this is another example. I EDC this for a little while when I was doing my NC furniture. I EDC this occasionally, and it turns out the student at my what's it called, workbench, was also a knife collector. So we got talking about it, and I showed this, and he said it was nice, handed it back. Guess what? No one got hurt. Now we do have a few other examples of things like this. That Boker there. Two of my friends have the exact same knife, only they've got the OD version. Now, I'm not going to name his name, but he used to carry his version of this knife quite often, and according to him, at one point he was carrying his knife in his pocket, and for whatever reason the police stopped him and was speaking to him, and what he told me was the police asked to see his knife. They had a look, said very nice, and handed it back. That's not my experience, that's his. But to me, that's definitely a positive one. This is a sub 3-inch non-locking knife as well. Boker Plus, quite a good UK legal EDC option. And the final thing that I could think of from my experience is this once again. Which, yeah, you notice this one's in this video quite a lot. That's just because I've had it for so long now. I was stopped by the police, Police Scotland, twice when I had this in my pocket. Now, both of the times I was of the age of 17. So, I was going to say I'm not even old enough to buy it, but that's kind of a funny one. Because, see, if you go to the government's website, the UK's government's website for knives, it actually says that it's illegal to sell a knife to a person that's under 18 unless it's a sub 3-inch folding pocket knife. So in theory, a 14-year-old can buy that. Now in practice, that's not the case. No shop at all in Britain is going to sell you this unless you're 18. The law also says, by the way, that in Scotland, not England and Wales or Northern Ireland, only Scotland, 16 and 17-year-olds can buy kitchen knives. That's the government that's saying that. Go to Asda if you're 16 years old and try and buy a kitchen knife. They will most certainly tell you where to go. Anyway, my Swiss champ, twice. Let's see if I can remember the story. The first time, I was just out walking sort of late at night. That's what I did back then. Someone was setting fires near where I lived. And for whatever reason, the police saw fit to stop me and ask me if I had anything to do with it. They basically agreed that it was nothing to do with me, and they said, "Can we search you?" It was a consensual search. I didn't actually have to do it, but I thought, well, I've got nothing to hide, so on you go if you really want to search me. Now, I probably wouldn't do that now because I've got a little bit of a better understanding of my rights, and I could tell them no. But of course they found this. I mean, they didn't find it. They asked. They said, "Do you have anything sharp on you?" "Yeah, I've got my Swiss Army knife in my back pocket." So they reached in and took it out. Now, I did keep it in the sheath at the time, in the back pocket, and he said, "What's that for?" "It's just a tool, isn't it? It's just a useful tool." And he accepted that. Not that it makes any difference because it's legal to carry anyway. He decided to keep a hold of it. Then he basically drove me back home, and they just handed it right back. Which that was one of my more positive experiences with the police. Second time I had a run-in with the police when I had this was literally just a month later. I was walking around basically the same area and someone was assaulted. I think it was a female that was assaulted. I have nothing to do with it. I have no idea what happened. Although I did hear someone scream. I was just walking home, went across the field, walked down the path, and I was near the shops, and next thing I know, there was a police car parked right beside me, asked me where I was and what I was doing. I explained the situation. They asked if I had any sharp on me. I said the same thing again. This policeman wasn't quite as nice. Of course, he pulled that out and said, "What's that for?" or something like that. And I gave the same story. "It's just my Swiss Army knife. It's just a tool, and I don't know when I might need it. It's useful." And he says, "Okay, I'd rather you leave that at home, because that could fall out of your pocket and someone might pick it up and stab you in the neck with it. And I just said, yeah, they could, but that's my choice to carry it. It's legal. I'm within my right to carry that. And he basically accepted it. I mean, at this point, there was nothing he could really do because I was within my right to be carrying this. So they decided they were going to take me back to the police station because they thought I was involved in the assault. Apparently, I matched the description of the person that did it. What had actually happened was I was the only guy in the area, and they thought they were just I don't know so something like that. It was just a convenience thing. I think it was easier to deal with me than find out who actually did it. Long story short, they basically put me in the back of the police car, took me to the police station, and put me in a cell, which wasn't exactly very fun. About half an hour later, they came in and says, "Okay, you're free to go." An independent witness was there, and they said you had nothing to do with it. So of course, me feeling relieved, put my shoes back on because they make you take your shoes off before you go in. Went to the desk to retrieve my belongings, my phone, money, and this, and they gave it right back, which is quite interesting because Britain at this point is a bit of a meme when it comes to knives and knife laws. This whole you got a license for that butter knife thing. I'm sure you've probably seen it floating around or that sort of thing. Have any of you seen the Section 5 cutlery license patch? It's a bit of a meme. I think it's an American company that makes them, but it's actually quite funny. If you don't know, Section 5, what that's talking about is Section 5 of the Firearms Act, which is just prohibited firearms like machine guns and that sort of thing. It's basically just the Americans taking the piss out of us. But he gave me it back and off I went. So that's all I could think of right now. I mean, for the most part, people are quite friendly about it. Some people, one thing I get quite a lot, and I still get a lot to this day, is people. I sort of get names given to me, like the latest one I was given was Mr. Stabs. Now, I don't joke about stabbing people, and I don't encourage you to joke about stabbing people, and I never would stab anyone. Nor would I ever threaten anyone, nor do I have any knives for that purpose. But for some reason, I still get labels like Mr. Stabs, or that sort of thing. I don't really know what to think about that. I mean, obviously, why would I? It's not something I would ever do. Oops, excuse me. So I think that's basically all there really is to say. Jesus, this video's went on for 18 minutes. You see what I mean when I say I could talk about knives for ages? I'm just going to, I think I'll just end the video there. Otherwise, I'll end up keeping you for a full hour or something. And to be honest, I don't think anyone really wants to sit and hear me talk about these things for that length of time. So thanks for watching. And Kotha, if you did manage to survive this long, I hope this is what you're looking for. Cheers for watching.